Health is wealth. जो तंदुरुस्त है वो धनी है. Different languages, different cultures enunciate the same principle. Nowadays, one may find individuals who are paying attention to their health in terms of regular exercise and proper diet. But the state of health of an individual is dependent on the society's health. And to discuss this question, a complex question, with us we have in the studio today Dr. H.V. Sardesai, a most widely known and respected physician in Pune. Dr. Sardesai, at the outset, could you give us an idea about the state of health prevailing in India vis-a-vis developed nations of the world?
Yes, it's rather an unfortunate situation that diseases which we may consider communicable and therefore have a social bias have a very high incidence in our country. I will give you the incidence of typhoid fever, which is exceedingly common here. In UK, United Kingdoms, you have one case of typhoid fever per million population in the year. Whereas in India, though the incidences have varied, the minimum incidence is 1000 and maximum incidence is 20,000 cases per million in 1 year. And this necessarily is due to the fact that there is inadequate sanitation. Take the example of neonatal tetanus, the tetanus which is there in newborn child, almost 100% fatal. Only 3 cases of neonatal tetanus were detected in the entire Europe in the last year, and they too came from countries which were not really advanced. In India, last year we have reported cases of 87 cases of neonatal tetanus. We have reasons to believe that many other cases were not reported, and therefore the incidence is exceedingly high. So also tuberculosis, which is a very big problem in our country. In our country, it is estimated that roughly 17 million cases of tuberculosis are going on at this moment of time, and there would be twice that number of people who have had the infection but have not had the disease yet. So that roughly you might say that 1/3 of population in our country has been either affected or is suffering from tuberculosis, and these figures are staggering.
That's an enormously high figure.
Very
high. Would you say that this is a social problem, not an individual one, and therefore society has to do something about it?
Very much so. We all have our personal health, but we also have a social health, and a society is made up of individuals, and unless each and every individual is healthy, the society is not healthy, and vice versa. Unless you are a part of a healthy society, you cannot remain healthy. I mean, the entire environment may be polluted, and however much you may try to be healthy in yourself, you may get infections. You can get infections from the water that you drink, from the air that you breathe, the food that you eat, and all kinds of pollutants will affect you, even though as an individual you have taken every possible care to remain healthy.
Dr. Sardesai, we have definitions of good health on a personal level. Could you give us an idea about a definition for social health?
A society where a person feels secure for future and a society which has got high standards for entertainment is considered a society which is healthy. So security for future meaning thereby that if I go out of my house for some work, people in my house must feel certain that I will return back home without any difficulty, and I won't have accidents on the way, or nobody will murder me or kill me, or in the houses I can sleep very contentedly that nobody is going to steal or come and make a robbery in my house. If I were to have a society which is unhealthy, then there will be thefts and there will be robberies and there are rapes and there are murders, and everything is going, one part of society is working in a manner which is not in the interest of other portions of the society and taking advantage of each other. These are all signs of unhealthy society. Similarly, as I said, the ability to entertain oneself. The classical example is when the Romans went for war, with every battalion they used to have a hunchback who used to walk with it. When the Roman soldiers got tired of walking, the general would order the hunchback to run. He could not run, so he would be whipped and he would fall down, he would cry, he would bleed, and as he was doing that, the entire Roman soldiers would laugh at it and say they get greater vigor and march with greater force. Even to read this one feels a terrible thing, and one would feel what sort of an entertainment is this? but we need not be so judgmental. In our own mind, we also take great pleasure in some harm that is seen on the TV screen, on the cinema. There is so much cruelty and so much of harm which is being done to each other, and people seem to be delighted at it. This is not a sign of a very healthy society. A healthy society must have good literature, good entertainment, good drama, good cinema, and so on and so forth.
Society is understood in different terms, communities, clans, etc. But many people would say that the essential constituent of a society is the family. Now, how far does the family play a role in determining the state of individual's health?
To a very great extent, because all habits of physical cleanliness begin in one's family. Take a simple habit of washing your hands before you take your food. The human hand is so made that the palm of our hands has a skin which is impervious to many bacteria, viruses and things. So, whenever we are moving around, we come across, we touch railings of staircases, and we come in contact with a number of things which are undesirable. They will not affect us as long as they are on our hand. But without washing our hand, we take the hand near our mouth and eat without washing, that gets transferred onto our mouth. Unfortunately, the lining of our lips, throat is not so strong, it picks up the infection very quickly. And therefore, what is termed as a droplet infection, like ordinary coughs and colds are transmitted this way. I have a cold, I sneeze, my sneezing produces droplets which go and affect all parts around. Somebody else comes, touches that part on the table, goes home without washing his hand, eats, and he gets the cold. Cold is all right. What happens to more serious diseases? What happens to chicken pox? What happens to other illnesses like shingles, what we call as herpes? They are all illnesses which come like that. Meningococcal meningitis is transferred like that, that a person who has this kind of an infection, by his coughing, sneezing and even talking, keeps on spreading droplets all over. We touch them, they are on our hands, we do not wash our hands and eat it. So, the society, the family is the unit where the child is taught the importance from the beginning. Wash your feet before you come into the house, a very vital importance, because there are kind of worms. Take the example of hookworm. Hookworm gets entry into the body by the foot. On the foot it makes an entry and then gets into the body. So, if you wash your feet when you are coming from outside, then at least you have prevented an incidence of hookworm, which is otherwise very serious illness inside. So, also the way to behave with each other, the ability to share, because the family is the place where you learn these aspects in society. Otherwise, as a child, the attitude is that I want everything and I want it now, here and everything. Now, if that trend is not controlled in that, then the same thing will happen in the adult life. That man will say, I want everything, I want all the money, I want all the authority, I want everything, and I am not prepared to share it. So, family is the basic unit of a society.
Well, individuals are asking for all kinds of things nowadays, but one suspects that they are putting a lot of their money and time in wasteful and even harmful habits, which only affect them personally, yes, but also it has a social dimension as a relation of social cost. In the same vein, if a society puts in a lot of money for individual benefit, would it make a substantial difference to the state of the health of that society?
Both factors are very important. I mean, if we were to take simple things like eating supari and eating tobacco and smoking and taking alcohol, even in a city like Pune, it is estimated that 20 lakhs of rupees are spent every day in 24 hours on only harmful habits. So, if people in Pune were to simply say that 1 year we are not going to spend money on something which harms us, we are entitled to have our entertainment by reading books, we can go to good cinemas, we can take picnics out, go to natural resorts, do exercise, play games, whatever else you want to do, you are welcome to do, but not smoke and not drink and not eat supari, then you would build a dam around Pune. Every year in one city can do that. Other way around, supposing there are dumps of all kinds of dirt around and flies are there and cockroaches are there and they come on down here. It was a matter of great shame to know that in the later part of 20th century, a disease like plague should visit India, because it can only come through insanitation. And the illnesses which I referred to in the past like typhoid, like TB, like neonatal tetanus come only through insanitation. Take the example of pollution of the car exhaust. I mean, an individual can hardly do anything about it, but the state and the authorities could do quite a lot to improve the sanitation in that respect.
Is this state of poor health in India reflected in the expenditures in any way?
Very much so. Now, last year 1998-99, we had 16,000 pharmaceutical companies in our country which have produced marketable products and sold 18,000 crore rupees worth of medicines in 1 year. Now, if you were to see that staggering figure, and if you were to look at the number of absenteeisms for work, loss of man hours, illnesses, hospitals are absolutely full, no place to get admitted, all doctors' dispensaries are overflowing, this would represent a very poor performance. A very dramatic change is needed in this.
Which would imply that there is a political will. In that sense, the political dimension of social health seems to be crucial, and the role of governments. How could they do better, to give some instances?
You know, vigilance is needed. For example, it won't require too much money to have the garbage cleared, or it won't require too much money to be sure that there is not lot of noise pollution everywhere. I am told that Singapore is one of the cleanest parts of the country, of the whole world, because if you were to throw litter on the road, your a fine of 1,000 pounds is put on you straight away. Now, that sort of a monetary deterrent has placed that place absolutely clean like a mirror. If Singapore can do it on a smaller scale, why can't we do it? We should be able to do that. Two basic things are needed to keep good health: a potable water supply and a proper sewage disposal. If these two things are attended to, I think 50% of our illnesses will go, just simply as is this.
So, the solution is simple if one pays attention to it.
Very true.
Dr. Sardesai, there is a point of view prevailing that there has been a substantial change in the quality of health between the last generation and this one, due to various factors including migration and lifestyles that we are adopting in urban centers. Is it true to say that health was much better in the last generation than today? And if at all it is marginally true, in which areas is it true and not true?
It was true to some extent, but I can't say it was true wholly. It was true to this extent that those who lived a better life because they were healthier. But what happened to all those who did not live? Our life expectancy at the time of our independence was only 32 years. Today it has gone to 68 years in India, and in the rest of the advanced countries it has gone to 73 years. We are catching up pretty fast. And people used to die with simple things. You know, when the influenza epidemic came in 1918, it killed lakhs of people around here. And so also we had epidemics of smallpox, epidemics of plague, epidemics of every conceivable disease, killing thousands of people. That does not happen at the moment now. So in that way, we are better than what it was in the past. But our lifestyle has left much to be desired. We do not do enough exercise. We eat foods which are not desirable. We are loaded with worries and anxieties for which we do very little, and we are completely unaware of our responsibilities for social health. All this has made matters worse. The population has expanded, cities are crowded, roads have traffic which are very conducive to accidents, and in every sphere of this nature the illnesses are rising.
You spoke about anxieties and apprehensions and in society. Have healthy societies or Western developed societies shown a high incidence of depression? How does it compare with the Indian situation? Maybe in terms of suicides or?
As a matter of fact, the most advanced countries like all the Netherlands, Switzerland and other places where state looks after your survival, so you are not worried at all about it. So worries which are faced by us of how I'm going to have the night meal today is no more applicable to them. But despite that, the incidence of suicide is highest amongst these countries because they lack in what we call as the spiritual health. By spiritual health we mean it's a part of our social health, that we have to be aware of the purpose of our life. Why are we doing everything? And fortunately for us, we are good at this aspect of our health. Our mental makeup is so made that we know that our life has been a gift from God, whatever is your philosophy, and we must make the best of it. So to do that, we will not easily throw away our lives like what people abroad would do. And the incidence of mental illness is exceedingly high in Western countries, mainly because the interpersonal relationships are bad, the societies are, the families are crumbling down, and they do not have anyone to talk to. The person would feel that nobody cares for me, and then the incidence of these illnesses is rising, their competition is very high, and therefore depressions and anxieties are rising. But we might catch up with them unless we are careful. We must be quite sure that we look into our mental health very carefully.
Which suggests that the family is once again a very important constituent in retaining healthy social health throughout society.
Very true, because in the family you can ventilate whatever your anxieties, frustrations and disappointments were when you are facing the society and the problems that you face. You come home and talk it out, but now you have no one to talk to.
All physicians, doctor, say that prevention is better than cure, and our advice to you is that try and not get into problems. Could you tell us something about the individual and the social dimension of this very briefly?
Well, physically speaking, we would say that we must remain clean, we must do exercise and follow a good diet. Mentally, you must ventilate your thought, communicate with whatever you have, look into your mind and see whether your expectations were realistic or you had expectations which are totally unrealistic. Socially, you must be aware of your responsibilities as a social citizen. You do not throw your dump anywhere, and you do not make noise which is not required. You do not just celebrate by crackers for every little thing that happens. All these are important, and together we can make a very good society.
So viewers, good health is not merely an individual question. It has a social dimension as well. If you see a garbage dump lying unattended, it could be the source of a serious illness for you. Dr. Sardesai, we thank you for coming here and sharing with us some important issues about social health. Remember, what you do affects society. What society does affects you. So next time when you have some garbage, don't just dump it out anywhere in the open. You could be harming somebody else, but you could also be harming yourself.